OFA presents The Inner Circle.
And away we go!
Starring Coach Ant and Coach Rel.
All right, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of OFA, The Inner Circle. Today, I am your host, Coach Rel, and we have a special guest in the building, a brother of mine, somebody who puts in a lot of work for the Black community, known as Corey Haggy. How you doing today, sir?
What's going on, y'all? I appreciate y'all having me here, fellas. Y'all putting on a wonderful show, and we just here to go ahead and keep on spreading positivity for sure.
Yes, sir. And then I have a special guest. As y'all know, I'm Minister Ant, Coach Ant, whatever y'all want to call me. Just call me Anthony, whatever. But this right here is my little brother. I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Marcellus. I'm happy to be here. Excited for the podcast. Let's turn up.
All right, let's get it. We're going to come in heavy today. All right, y'all know we talk about mental health, emotional intelligence, straight from the rip. Starting from Marcellus, and we're going to make our way just like that.
Cool.
What does it mean to be a Black man to you?
To be wise, first and foremost, strong. I would say family oriented, and I would say a scholar. I think being a scholar is different from being wise.
For sure. Me and my perspective right now is like being a pioneer. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of things rise and they fall on us, and it's also about being responsible too. A lot of things that we go through on a day-to-day basis is just from our actions. So being responsible, being aware, and just being a pioneer and just paving the way for a lot of different people.
Okay. So as y'all see, we got two healed brothers on the couch, right? Y'all this is speaking from a place of healing.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. How we are depicted in the media is not how you describe.
No.
Based on how we are depicted, how do y'all feel about that?
A lot of the ways how we depict it is based off hip hop culture, though, bro. I have a lot of these conversations. Just me running my businesses, like I could be as humble as possible, but humble don't always sell. And like even right now, your business could be going crazy, doing great, and with numbers and whatnot. But people always want to look at what's next. So I feel like we got to be the ones that's the flashy, talk a certain way, look a certain way. And that's just how they box us into this whole entertainment type of field, and that's just how it is. And they done ingrained this and embedded this stuff into us for so long that it's a lot of unraveling, bro. But it's so tough because that's all people are seeing on a day-to-day basis, and it's just how it is. And it's either you kind of like got to get with it or try to keep on fighting to make a change for it.
Okay. What about you?
I think how we depict it is almost like a distorted image of purpose and how we want to be defined, and what we desire. I can elaborate.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like for instance, when we think about like hip hop culture, we think about the need of money, finances. How we depict it is rooted in greed, I feel like, which is controversial to purpose. I think we tie our purpose up in material things. So even outside of money, profession, position in life, the need for power, the fuel your drive. So yeah, that's how I think we depict it.
Okay. I believe, just as a man, well, more specifically as a Black man, I believe that we are gauged on two things that's actually unfair: our ability to protect and our ability to provide.
For sure.
And outside of those spaces, we are much more. But I believe if we fail in those spaces, then we're not looked at as men at all, even amongst men. I think that we grade ourselves off of that, and it do come from music, but it also comes from family lineage as well. It's literally taught. We brought up that way. You know what I mean? Based on where we from, it could be environmental factors, cultural factors actually play that too. So how does that affect in both spaces, right? Whether, because I acknowledge that y'all both healed. I can see y'all did some work. But in them spaces, how do you feel as far as a Black man, like, expressing that? Because if you are healed, but you're around a bunch of men who aren't, how do you feel comfortable expressing that? Or do you actually lean into the ignorance?
Yeah, and I think those things that I personally like, I dealt with and I still go through on a day-to-day basis because it's tough. Like I was saying, being a pioneer, and how you saying like you guys are here. That means you having a lot of conversation with brothers that still haven't had this figured out or become aware of it. So I think it's tough. It's the toughest for the people who know what's really going on. And we deal with the most. We the most torn. Like I could have people that I tell, hey, look, I want you A, B, C, like let's get this stuff in order, because I know what's gonna happen when you do that. And when they don't do it, it's like, damn, like how much I'm gonna tell to you until you just don't get it. And that's what hurts the most. So like when they can't provide or you know, they not doing something to put themselves in a better situation, it's just tough on us. Like we there, and we not all the way there just yet, but we striving for greatness every day, and it's just, I feel like it put us in a tough position. It's torn.
Some of the people I love most not comfortable with my expression. And why it's hard is I understand it, because my expression comes from Christ and Christ alone. So even when you notice the healing or you identify change for good, they come from Jesus. So when I'm out in the world, and you know, I'm around friends who I grew up with, right, who not so in tune with, you know, the Christ I've been exposed to, the expression come off foreign. So when people see that change, right, the healing, that foreign territory, they can't resonate with. It's not relative. So a lot of the times, as a black man who loves Jesus, you find yourself in these spaces unheard, underappreciated, and it actually, what it does is it sometimes well, speaking to my personal experience, it makes me doubt whether or not that's where I need to be, right? And then you realize, right?
That's heavy.
Yeah, and then you realize the suffering, well, in my case, the suffering and the persecution, you know, that I read about in the Bible about Jesus and what he went through. You know, there's one thing never changed, which is the work. The work never changed, right? Feelings around him change. The doubt shift. Lies turn to truth, but his work never changed. So that's what I stand by as a black man. So I'm more comfortable in being vulnerable in familiar spaces, unprofessional and professional territories. I wasn't always like that though. I used to allow the situation to dictate my pace. And then you start noticing the work fail. And then, you know, it's things that come behind that, like consequences, or you fall short of your purpose. You lose a piece of your integrity. And then you start looking more like the space than like, you know, the Christ you serve, in my case.
I want to unpack what both of y'all said, because it's an overall question I got, but I'm going to ask you, Coach Ryan. As a black man, do you feel as though you are a product of your environment, or you cultivate the environment? Both could be true. Both could be false. Break it down what it's like. Get into the details.
I think 90% of the population fall into their environment, and about 8% of that turn are leaders. So they can they're going to be, no matter what situation they come from, background, they will blossom and become something special, like they were determined to. But the other 2% is I would put it as miscellaneous. Life happens. They could maybe they wanted something better for themselves, but their family put them in a situation, and now they got to pick between their family or being an individual. So I think it really does depend on who grooms you, who's around you, who pours love into you. I think there's a small percent of the population that is able to, no matter what their circumstances are, I'm gonna be greater. I'm not gonna be my parents. I'm not gonna be like my environment. But most people want to fit in. And from fitting in, you'll make those wrong choices and speak on those consequences. So it really just comes to a point in your life, if you're lucky enough to get to that point where you can say, do I love who I am, or am I greater than my surroundings? That's really what it comes down to. Because if you love who you are, no one's going to be able to put you in a a bad circumstance. You're going to do what you need to do to survive. And that may be cutting your family off. That may be advocating for yourself to go to a different school. Whatever those things are, those are the people that persevere. But for the most part, I do think, and it's selfish reasons because it sounds good, right? Like, it's the wrong thing, but you're going to do it anyway because it's easier to do the wrong thing than it is to do a good thing. So if my family's in a gang and I feel uncomfortable, right? I know I shouldn't because it made me feel a certain way. I remember that feeling when I seen it for the first time. I become numb now. But when I seen it for the first time, it made me feel a way and I was in shock. But I'm going to go with it because that's what my big brother or my dad told me to do, or my sister told me to do. This is what our family lineage does. So, and then another thing that comes into play is it becomes a cycle, right? And this is going to go into my question that I have for y'all and you too, Ant. Are Black people still slaves?
It's a good question. That's a good question.
Mentally, yes. Yeah, mentally, I still feel like a lot of people are still in chains, for sure. And it could be slaves to the music, slaves to the food that we eat, and just slaves to our daily cycles. Just not. I feel like a lot of people they just not seeing what's really going on the outside, and you could get it's a lot of distraction. I think they slaves to the distractions, and that's what's holding a lot of people behind and keeping a lot of people on pace. I think one thing you touched on too is like you're not going to be able to see or get to where you really want to be at unless you have a vision. But I also believe, to your point, brother, that having a vision is like you're blessed if you have that, bro. A lot of people can't see it, bro. A lot of people don't know what they want to do the next day. A lot of people don't even know what they want to do in the next minute or so. So if you have some type of vision of where you want your life to be and you got the opportunity to go out there every day, that's when you start to have those breaks. And that's personally what happened with me, bro. Like there's been times where you just feel like you have all this potential, you could do all these things, but you're not going out there because you're either lazy or your environment, like you said. So for the people who are actually chasing and actually going after their stuff, bro, those different type of people.
I believe, first of all, that was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the answer is yes. I believe that we are slaves to our definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
Tough. I like that.
If person to person, case to case, black man to black man, I think that is a general definition of success, but I also believe that we have our own specific case of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that definition then become the standard. And we spend the rest of our lives chasing it. But but at no point do we sit and realize that the definition is wrong. That definition, it could be given, passed down to a vision by a parent who maybe was going through some mental health crisis at the time and told us this how the vision's supposed to look because we never prayed on it. We never asked about it. We never went to go get it or think about it or curate it ourselves. So our definition of success then we start to become enslaved to it because we imprisoned by it. At a certain age, we feel like we got to hit a certain milestone. If I don't hit the milestone by that age, then as a black man, I already have societal pressures, but I also feel pressure to go get this invisible thing that I don't feel like really talking about out loud no more because nobody understands me. Yeah. So now we talking about isolation, and now we talking about suicide, and now we talking about depression. Yeah. Now we going into these different realms where as a black man, you're not allowed to feel weak. You fall off a bike at a certain age, they tell you, get up, don't cry.
All right.
My sister allowed to cry. My girl cousins allowed to cry. Me, I gotta get up and be tough. But then when you younger, you got the older females that's pinching your cheeks, talking about something, you gonna be a heartbreaker. Now I'm 25 and now I'm really a heartbreaker. Now what? Society then says you gotta turn off this lustful thing, but y'all created it. So our definition of success, what does that actually look like? Because our reputation might look like a womanizer. Our reputation might look like a man that just know how to go get some money.
All right.
But what happens when God want to humble us and the money shut off? Who are we then? So I think it's just our definition of success. Yeah. Who leaned into those principles and those values and who told us exactly what it was? Or did it come from our pain? Did our definition of success come from the lack thereof? So therefore I gotta go chase this thing. Yeah. Right. So I think that's it.
And this is what I would say too about that. Cause I feel like I see it from both sides. I definitely understand the pressures, but I also know that you got to be a purpose chaser versus just a money chaser, because it was a point in time where I was just chasing money and it would come and it would go. But when you chasing purpose, no matter what happens, you're gonna be able to always succeed and get to where you need to be. And then also you gotta set some type of goals for yourself, because if not, then you just sitting around, and we all are human and we all go on one thing. So it's like I tell people all the time, like, you can't have goals and just be sitting on the couch just like this and think that it's just gonna fall out the sky. Like, you actually have to go ahead and put in that work and be intentional about those things. So I think definitely having some goals set in place and chasing the purpose is what's really gonna propel people, and that's that's what's gonna keep them relevant. That's what's gonna keep whatever it is that's satisfying the urge to get it. I think that's what's gonna keep them full, for sure.
I was gonna say, like, I'm gonna share a personal point for myself. Like, I'm a well-traveled man. I would say, like, me being 32 years old, I've been fortunate and blessed to travel to a lot of places. So what I'm about to say is about to resonate, and I want y'all to think about it first and then give me your opinions. But seeing people in their environments, whether it be third world countries to first world countries, I would say that American Black people we don't love each other.
That's heavy.
And I say that because I've been a part of other cultures. I've seen it firsthand. We don't give back to one another. And I'm not talking just financially. We just don't give back. There's no tutelage. The elders don't come in and string together. Once people make it out, once the successful people become successful from their environments, they don't go back. They don't create organizations and things like that inside their communities and inside the Black community. To foster relationships and give a pathway. It kind of just leave it to yourselves. You got inside of the Black culture. I've noticed this from this is just anecdotal, but I've seen it from a bunch of my friends and people that I've fostered with relationships with, or from cases that I've dealt with, that Black people shield their history from one another. Like, if it's a negative past, we're not going to tell you about your dad. We're not going to tell you about your mom. We're not going to tell you that the person that you call grandma is actually your mom.
Talking heavy.
Or that is actually your sister. We don't say those things because it has a negative connotation, and we're so worried about perception. We are the biggest, and I've ever seen it. How we as Black people feel about perception is scary, because we care so much about what others perceive of us that we'll do all the negative energy and evil things in the world to each other just to look better.
Then turn around and say, what happens in the house stays in the house.
Exactly.
That is wild. So y'all about to gossip, talk, it go back, perfect. You're right. I honestly think I don't think that we have like a love for each other.
I think it's deeper than that, bro.
I think that it's survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody in survival mode, can you honestly love the person next to you?
You ain't got time for it.
If mom working doubles and come in the house and say, yo, go upstairs, do you really got time to really love on me like that? Like, this is but then it go back into what I was saying before. What's the actual your definition, your value? Speaking of what you were saying, your purpose and your value. If we start from the very beginning and we feel as though we came into the world in debt, then we are always playing catch up for the rest of our lives.
That's what's happening.
And that's where we are, just in society. Yeah. We always feel like, yo, I'm behind. And I don't know. But to the perception standpoint, we want to always look like we the man when we walk into the room, though. We're alpha. I got everything under control. We are destroyed inside, broken up, don't even know what to do with our emotions. And then it comes out in response to aggravation, frustration, violence. Or we just take it out on the women.
And we're so unloved inside that. I can speak from a personal experience. We're so unloved inside this environment that we'll do anything to chase the moment that we feel a compliment. So for instance, me being me, I remember me dressing up. That was my first compliment. I reflect back on our conversation on the pod, my episode. My first compliment was when I was dressed up. So then in my mind, people take me serious, or I look good. So this is the thing that I'm gonna chase. I'm going to be a trendsetter. I'm going to get into fashion, because that's what it was. I dressed up, and from then on, he's a fly kid, or that's where I relatively got my compliments from. So it's like, all right. So outside of that, though, I don't hear nothing. I don't really hear nothing on my intelligence. Like that's what you're supposed to do. But if that's what I'm supposed to do, why everybody else not getting it where I'm at? So it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like not everybody's making honor roll. Not everybody's captain of the soccer team. Not every, you know what I mean? So it's like we just have a hard time loving. And the problem where it came to me from was like, what would you say as a culture is our identity? Because I look at the Asians, right? Regardless of how they feel, education and family is everything. I look at the Jewish population, whether they like each other or not, they are coming together and they are going to, that dollar is going to matriculate amongst their people. But I can't give us anything other than saying that we're trendsetters. And on top of being trendsetters, we don't even own the trends. We don't own anything inside the things that we say that we started. We don't own the fashion houses. We don't own Hollywood. We don't own the music industry. So I'm trying to figure out as Black people, what do we excel on or excel at that outside that we can come together on? I think the easiest thing to do is to come together and create a plan. And we're going to love, and our little Black girls, our little Black boys, we're going to make sure that they excel.
Well, I got some pushback.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I got some pushback. I actually do. You go first.
Well, I think the first thing we got to understand is when we think about love and its definition, love is an extension of who you around, right? Like, and who you raised by, what you were raised by. I feel like, just speaking from personal experience, what the definition of love looked like for me once upon a time was an impoverished version of it, right? Like, you know how people say you don't be a statistic, you get what I'm saying? Like, or you are who you hang around, right? It's truth to that. So if your environment don't look like love, how can you expect me to have love? You understand? So in regards to having a plan, how can you expect a young Black man to have a plan if nobody ever set them down and told them what the plan is and what it looked like or how to strategize, right? Like you said, like the Asian community, they value education. Is truth. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood where we value education, right? Like, so when you think about these things and what you're exposed to, eventually you will become that, unless somebody reaches down, takes you by the collar and pull you up from that impoverished version of your ideology and what you believe.
That was actually to know what the pushback was. It sounded like we agreed.
I was gonna say, wow, on my end, we also, because we got to frame the whole thing. So I agree with you. I agree that other ethnicities and nationalities is doing their thing, and they all have a niche. And I also agree that a Black man or Black people in America don't. But we also got to take into consideration the systems against us, right? Like we slaves, but at some point we really was. Like at some point there was policies that was created in order to keep the Black man down, separate the Black man from the family. Like at some point in the 60s and the 70s, we had Black leaders. They killed off the leaders, and now we have a lack of followers and leadership. Because we still live in this fear of, if we get to a certain standpoint, then they're going to blackmail us, tear us down, and do away with us. So then the question then become, so in 2025, do we have a lack of leadership or a lack of people actually moving in one direction for a movement? That then becomes the question. Because I don't know the answer to that, right? I think I could look out and see, oh man, there's some black men out there that's doing their thing, but then you're struggling for support. There's some Black men out there that's doing their thing, but then you're struggling for people to get behind it and understand the vision, the mission, the strategy, the planning of it. And then it becomes this crab in the barrel mentality. You know what happens when the crab gets to the top? It gets plucked out of the barrel and get cooked. And that's where we are. We in this place where we in this crab in the barrel mentality, not realizing the one that make it to the top is a coon and just dancing and checking and jobbing at the top anyway. So what are we actually chasing here? That's my pushback.
I think that we have, to answer your question, I think we have a group. There are some, like you said, there are Black people that are thriving and are trying to do their best. But I'm saying as a group, as a collective, I think we have a group of people that have given up. And I think the mentality is easier to, like I was saying before, when it comes to environment, it's easier to blame your environment for the reasons for your outcomes than to take accountability. Inside of our, so we have a curriculum, and what we teach kids in our emotional intelligence program curriculum is actually the second one is accountability, right? And where this falls into accountability for me is I'm just trying to, I've always had this thought, and it's a weird thing. I see it all the time. I watch a lot of content on YouTube, and I see it all the time, and I hear a lot of people say, just from life, we deal with systemic racism. And I'm just, for the life of me, I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, why to you does that make sense? Even if you did, even if we do, you're in a white country. You go to anywhere in the world. Do you think if you went to Asia, are the Asians going to prioritize black people? No. If you go to anywhere in the world that's not a party that's not naturally fitting to you, are they going to prioritize your people? So yes, you are in a country, let's say, that degrades and diminishes you, and you have to work 10 times harder. Okay, well, that's what we know, that as a fact. So what are we complaining about? You already know it's the worst thing about something is not knowing that you're up against it. But if I walk into a game playing a basketball, football, whatever, and they say, yo, the refs come out and say we are against you, then I'm not going to complain about any call I get from the ref, because I already knew going in it's going to be 7 versus 5. So I'm not going to complain about the refs. I'm going to look and try and come up with advantageous ways for me and my team to win. And that's where I think we've given up. I think we lean into that a lot. And I'm just like, okay, well, how do you benefit? You're just going to complain. We ordered our 40 acres and a mule. Like, okay, we're not getting it, and they're never going to give that to you. So what are we going to do to come together as a people and figure it out?
We got to play by the system, and that's just what it is right now. I feel like a lot of people are going against the system. Like, we going against it. Like I said, we're not educated. We already started off, 100 years behind financially, which honestly plays a role in all of this stuff. I feel personally that everything is around finances, and that's just me. Yes, you can have faith, and yes, you can have, you walking on this line, but bro, financially is going to control your living. Financially, the car you drive, financially, the food that you intake that's going to keep your health in place, financially, the education that you provide to your kids, financially, what type of trainer you got. It just give you a sense of peace. So me, I feel like it's financially, and that's why we all in these systems. Like, we got a whole bunch of people on Section 8. We got a whole bunch of people on government assistance. They all eating food stamps. Their health is bad. They eating the worst foods possible, oodles and noodles and all this crazy stuff. The households is not making enough money, so they going against each other, clashing with each other. Moms can't go to work because they don't got enough money. It's $1,500 a month to go and pay for childcare. Like, they just don't have it financially, and it's because we don't have that education. And me personally, like, I feel like I'm a leader. Like, I'm a leader, bro. Like, I'm in the trenches every day. I'm teaching people the credit space every day, real estate space every day. I'm putting out as much content as possibly could to go ahead and touch the people that need to be touched. And I understand that it's going to fall on deaf ears. But another thing that I do understand is sometimes you got to go meet people where they at. And that's where us wearing the jewelry, the chains, I could go meet you where you at, because now I could open your ears up and now you're going to listen to me. And I could go ahead and get you into my world and take you out of that world that's just what it is, because that's what they doing to you anyway. So that's where I feel like the system is. And for us leaders, it's like unfortunate, but we got to go in the trenches and go get the people where they at. And we have good meanings in who we are. Like, our core values is strong, and that's how we could go to save more people, bro.
What's up, y'all? If y'all like with this conversation that we've been having, the inner circle, man, first of all, if you want to be a guest, feel free to hit us up, man. We're going to look into your credentials, see who you are. If you fit the criteria, then feel free to sit down on this couch right here, the hot seat. And another thing, like, subscribe, and lock in with us on all social media platforms, Our Friendly Advice. And to visit our website, it's ourfriendlyadvice.net. You can book us there. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day.